Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. My last phone kind of died, so I didn't have a video, and I got a new phone, and this is my new video with the new one. It's whatever. I don't even know the newest phone. I got a big old discount for sending back my old phone. Otherwise, the battery went defective and it wasn't charging. If you didn't have the phone constantly plugged in, it would only last like an hour or so. So there you go. It needed some work and nobody cares. So why am I talking about it? All right. So sorry guys. All right. So here. This is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventure game, The Fiend Folio, TSR. Tome of Creatures Malevolent and Benign, edited by Don Turnbull. Okay, this is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and then I stopped playing Dungeons & Dragons at Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. Okay, so this is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I guess, 1st edition. But I still play. I just still use the 2nd edition rules. I could care less about the new rules, and I don't know. There's like controversies going on, and I don't follow them. I'm in my bubble. You know, as far as Marvel Comics are concerned, Marvel Comics stopped at 2015. DC stopped around 2014, and Dungeons & Dragons stopped around 2nd edition, whatever year that was. Yeah, whatever. Say whatever you like, but when I moved, I took all my D&D stuff out of storage, and I couldn't find this book. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if I lent it out. I don't know if it's misplaced. I don't know if it's in a box that I've forgotten about. So I did what a crazy person does, and I went on eBay and I bought another copy. It came today, and I didn't even open it yet. So I thought that would be a cool video. When I showed the Monster Manual, people seemed to like it, and I kind of find that D&D is like, a nerdy or a hobby, just like comic books. So I hope you like it. If not, just suffer with me for today, and we'll check it out. Okay, so what is the Monster Manual? I've read the Monster Manual. What is the Fiend Folio? Well, the Fiend Folio was the follow-up to the Monster Manual. It was supposed to be like a Monster Manual 2, but it's a collection of like fans made monsters and stuff like that and submitted them to a British magazine, to White Dwarf. And what was it called? Like The Fiend's Find or something like that. And the first 13 issues of White Dwarf, they collected the best of the monsters. Best is a relative term, as you'll see. Look at my hands are back to being filthy. They collected them, and then they made this book. So there you go. So Gary Gygax, all he did was submit a few monsters. And let's look at, okay, what do we got here? Okay, Shirley Christian, all right, Pennsylvania, okay, Dragon Publishing. All right, so I have no idea who these people are. I bought this book off eBay, and I don't want to linger on people's address. Who knows if they still live there or not. Okay, so I remember these. I literally haven't looked through this book since, the latest could have been 1993 when I moved across the country, put everything in storage. So I love that picture. Okay, the forward. Let's look at the indicia. What year did this even come out? I don't even know. Should be like I don't even know what year did this come out. I don't know what year, guys, and I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. That's not too riveting. So I'm gonna guess 1979. Okay, here's the alphabetical order of the monsters, but who cares? There's some Jeff D artwork. Explanations of what intelligence means, all the rules, magic resistance, armor class, psionic abilities, the size, and let's look. Okay, so here we have a great Jeff D drawing of the Araka, the Birdman. That is just so cool. What they're neutral good. I forgot. And here we have just a close-up on the face. That is so cool. I'm not pronouncing that. I always love this picture of it grabbing a four-legged ostrich thing. An adherer. This is just so stupid. Looks like a mummy, but it's not really bandages. It's just flakes of skin, and it's like a glue monster. Look at that. That is so cool. Aliax. Now, I don't know if these are based in mythology. I know, if I know anything about mythology, I'll talk about them. But as far as I know, Al Mirage, I don't know. As far as I know, like apparition. Okay, the apparition is a ghostly thing. The assassin bug, that's cool looking, but astral searcher. Babbler. That drawing is second only to the Aerial Servant. That is just second only to the Aerial Servant. I'm hoping like I don't turn the page and there's like drawings of pornography or something like that, because I didn't even look at bats. Burbeline. Again, does anybody know if any of this stuff is based? I imagine it would be British since it was White Dwarf. Blindham. It's like Frog in the Headlights. The Bloodhawk. A Bloodworm. Bone Snapper. Buka. A Bullywug. That sounds British. What do we got here? Okay, Buka's jumping around. A Carbuncle. Carbuncle meant poop when I was a kid. Look at the carbuncle in that toilet. So that always made me laugh. Bunyip, I know. This was like an Australian. I talked about this when I did the Monster Manual. Then I got this book from the library that had these horrific drawings of monsters. And one of them was the Bunyip. And I remember when the Bunyip came, it would, in the ocean, and it would cause the water to like rise slowly. It was like a super high tide. And anybody who touched the water when the Bunyip was around would die. Caryatid columns. I remember that. A caterwaul. Caterwaul just means noise. Syphil. I thought this was more of like a sci-fi monster. It was a, what did it stand for? Colonial insect formed artificial life. So that's like a hive of insects. It's a cool monster. Clubneck. Coffer Corpse. And I remember my friend Carl, who taught me how to play D&D, he had that one of his things, and it just would come out and it would just cough. I'm cough. I always loved that. Hitting him with like force or something like that. Crab Man. The Crypt Thing. Just a cool drawing. But like, are these monsters necessary? Instead of a Crypt Thing, can't you just have a lick or something like that? Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, some of these monsters just like redundant. You know, a Dark Creeper. A Dark Stalker. That's just cool looking. You know, is it undead? I don't remember. I mean, I didn't read a Death Dog. The Death Knight. I love the Death Knight. There was no need for him, but I loved the Death Knight. I used them. So far, that's the only creature. Oh, I take it back. Lolith. I used Lolith and I used Death Knight in my D&D stories so far. Let's see. This is a, I can't pronounce it, but this is definitely the Don't Kill I, the Horda from Star Trek. The devil, a Styx devil. That's just cool looking. Oh, we got a index card. What do we got here? A devil dog, a dire Corby, a disenchanter. This to me was like one of the problems with Dungeons & Dragons. They just made up monsters that were just like, you know, I don't know, like solves for like problems of like, okay, I gave too much magic items to these fighters and, you know, to the players, and they beat everything. I'm just gonna throw a disenchanter and a rust monster. You know, like what were those names of those magic items that were just like bombs? If you put them in like a bag of holding, they would just explode and kill everything. To me, that was just like, you know, solutions to DMs who didn't think things through. This is cool. Carp Dragon. That's really cool. I remember all these dragons. This guy I always liked. I never used him, but I always liked him. And the Prince of Evil Cold Creatures. Cryonax. Imex. I always loved like elemental beings. This guy was cool. Orgrimmar. Prince of Evil Earth Creatures. Alehydra. Yancy Bin. And tell me that's not cool. I use Drow-Elves. I use Drow-Elves way too much. And they're evil. Sorry, guys. Drow-Elves are evil. They live underground, and they're evil. They're evil Drow-Elves. Yes, you could have a good Drow-Elf, but the species as a whole are evil. They're evil Drow-Elves, just like orcs. An Enveloper. That's just silly looking. Never used an Ettercap. An Eye Killer. The Eye of Fear and Flame. Another one. Couldn't you just use a lick with like magic spells or something like that? A Fire Drake. That's cool. The Fire Newt. Here's a Fire Newt on a silly creature. A Fire Snake. I never used it, but it is cool. A Fire Toad. Fire-breathing toad. A Flail Snail. Okay, that reminds me of my friend Carl had us go on an adventure, and he used all of the ridiculous monsters from this book. The flail snail, the flumph, you know, all the like ridiculous. And I bought this book, and you know, it's charming now, but at the time I was like, look at all this ridiculousness. You know, it's who cares? A Flind, they're pretty cool. A Forlorn, a Frostman. I mean, who cares? What is this? A galley? Yeah, and it was funny because these things came out, and they all came out backwards, so their little butts. They were trying to touch us with their butts. Carl was a crazy DM, and he never wrote anything down. It was all he just made up. Like, he would roll the dice. He wouldn't even look at charts. You know, after a while, we just couldn't play with him anymore because he was just being a jerk. Garbug. A giant. Oh, flying lobsters. I never realized that was a flying lobster. What do we got here? A fog giant. Just, who cares? A mountain giant. A giant strider. Oh, that's what that other thing was riding. A gibberling. We joked, he used to say that they were Wolverine's relatives, you know. They kind of look like Wolverine's relatives, right? Yeah, whatever. They were Githyank. I don't know why. I found these fascinating, and I never used them in D&D. But I ripped them off and I used them in my superhero game, Villains and Vigilantes, V and V, and I used these guys. I wrote them out, and, you know, their stats into another whole game system, and then, you know, also the Githzari. They were like fighting each other in the astral plane. I never finished that story. I gotta finish it. Yeah, these things. Gorbel, and there was a guy on an old comedian, George Gobel, and these things attacked us, and one of them was named George Gobel because that's the way Carl was. And you know, I think George Gobel was one of the squares on the Hollywood squares. It was just stupid stuff. A gorilla bear. Let's have gorilla bear. Growls. I use these again in V&V as a space aliens. It was a race because I've always liked this picture. So I had these. It was like I copied that. I made an adventure. The superheroes went to a derelict spaceship in space, and so I copied that concept. What was it? Event Horizon. I wanted to make a ghost ship in space, but it didn't have anything to do with warping. So they found a spaceship. It was an alien spaceship. They went. It was just corpses of a humanoid alien race, which they later encountered later. But there was these things. So these things invaded their ship and tore them all apart. So they were fighting these things in a ghost ship beyond Pluto. I thought it was a fun adventure. Grimlocks. I always thought these were like Morlocks from what is it? The time machine. Griffs. A guardian daemon. A guardian familiar. Hellcats. A whore fox. I remember, you know, we were little kids, so of course, whore fox. You know, these were like little slutty foxes that ran around. And then, of course, the hook horrors. They were hookers. Stupid kids. Stupid. This scares me. I don't know what it is, but big insects freak me out. In this picture, I'd be like, I'd run away. The Hound of Ill Omen. What is that from Harry Potter? That's going to drive me nuts. What is the dog? And then there was a Hugava, and of course he was Hugava guy, and he's like, I'm a Hugava guy, I'm a Hugava. It was just that adventure was just ridiculous. An ice lizard, an Immorph, an iron cobra, the Jaculi, Germalanes. I don't know if these are Commandant. I don't know. It's like I know Kelpies are like real. These are from mythology or folklore or something like that. They're like clumps of seaweeds that, you know, they're like plant seaweeds that you mistaken for mermaids, and then people go out and then they die in the mermaid. Kenku. You know, I used Tengu, the Japanese basically version of these, and used them in my superhero game a lot. I never used these in D&D. These Karga, I always thought they were cool concepts, but I never used them. And there was no way in hell I was ever using this thing. No way. The Kuatoa, these you know, of course, to me, became deep ones from H.P. Lovecraft. So I used them in Dungeons Dragons, and I used them in V&V. You know, they in my game lore, they're deep ones, but they call themselves Koatoa, and they worship Blip, Dool, Blip, and Mother Hydra. Those are different colonies, and of course, they're at war with each other, not just the human race. And then they come ashore on raiding parties to get breeding stock. That's my B&B story. I thought they were cool. The Lamaya Noble. I know the Lamayas were basically like Robin vampire. This picture I loved. I always loved this picture. I don't know what it was, but this sword always looked heavy the way he was moving, and it just looked like he hit this guy, and the force just threw him back. Even though it cut him, it was still like, I just love it. Just so much dynamism in that. I love that. This thing is just dying, gurgling. If pictures can make a sound, this picture makes a sound. I love that drawing. I gotta look up who drew it. I don't know who drew it. This one. Okay, that's Silly Adventure. These lava children were there. And of course, they had hillbilly accents. Lizard King, that is cool looking. Too cool to use in a Silly Adventure. Magnesium Spirits. Mantari. Measles. You know, and that was, of course, they attacked us. You got measles. And they would be jumping around us. The Mean Lock. I don't know why. I never used them, but I always found this to be creepy. Probably because it's insect looking. And yeah, it's small. So I don't know. That to me, just imagine a bunch of them coming at you. That would be terrifying. I picture them like purplish black with like pinkish eyes. I don't know. I'm sure they describe them, but whatever. Mephits. Okay, so they're like fire spirits or something. Yeah. I never used these. Mesodaemon. It's cool looking, but never used it. I might, cool looking, never used it. Necrophistus, the Death Worm, never used it. The Needle Man, kind of a cool concept, never missed it. A Nilbog, it's a goblin backwards, and it heals every time you hit it instead of, that's just so stupid. And here, I thought this was just like the bad version of a Displacer Beast, one of my favorite monsters. The Norker. What is that? Nika Daemon, I never used it. That's just a cool picture. It's like I always thought these guys were like just like monstrous serial killers, which now that I think about it, is actually pretty terrifying. Augrillion, never used it. Osquip. Pengalan. I never used this. I thought they were stupid until I found out that they were really based on like, I forget where, like Portuguese. I forget where they are, Portuguese or Brazil, I forget. But these are like, they're from a mythology. And then I read a comic called Witch Doctor that had this as one of the villains. And now I'm like, okay, cool monster. Never, you know, just a variant on a vampire. I grew to like them. Look at that. The Phantom Stalker, I don't know why. I just like the way it looks, but I've never used it. And a Pernicillion, I never used it. Poltergeist. The Protein Polymorph. You know, I just realized something now. I never really used monsters that didn't have pictures. You know, I wanted to see a picture of it, so I guess I never used Quagga. Quippers I did use. Something about monstrous, you know, why can't I think of the names of those fish? Piranhas, monstrous piranhas. Okay, Quillian, just, you know, basically they're just cannibals. I don't, you know, they're stronger than normal human cannibals. And a gigantic spider. That's just terrible. And revenants. I use these, and then I use some of these concepts in my V&V games to make like Jason, like from Friday the 13th, like, you know, like slasher monsters that kill you. Yeah, I made a slasher monster adventure. Well, I never use these. Just first. Sandman never used. Scarecrow, all right. A screaming devilkin. Who cares? This is cool looking. Never used it. Like I said, no picture of it. Never used it. I don't know. I always thought that was silly. A Sheet Phantom. Shocker. I don't know. That's a sci-fi villain. Never used it. Of course, I use Skeleton Warriors. It's cool looking. Look at them. Skulks. Never used them. And the Slads. I love the Slads. I don't know what it is. I love the Slads. Never used them in never used them in Dungeons & Dragons. I imported them into my superhero game, and these are beings from in my lore. I'm making this up. These are beings from beyond our universe. So beyond, you know, our universe. They come from a whole, I don't even want to say a dimension, because I actually have a map of the way my universe works. It's, you know, dimensions are one thing. These are from beyond. So these are like beyonders or whatever. And they come from an entirely different universe, an entirely different multiverse, okay? In my world, there's a multiverse, but it doesn't work like Marvel. It's not the get out of jail free card. In a world with infinite possibilities, you can't just replicate anything, because each moment has infinite possibilities. There's infinite variables in each infinite variable moment. So there's no other John Longbox in the entire universe, in the entire multiverse. So the multiverse, it's just other universes that maybe have slightly different physical laws, but, you know, completely different histories, because it just can't be the same. They don't, you know. So if you went to the next parallel world, they wouldn't even speak English. All right. And beyond that is the sled. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'm talking about the portfolio. Jeez, so stupid. Just cool looking. Yorgle, Snaiads, Sons of Chaos. I'll go faster now because this is 21 minutes. Stun Jelly, Susurrus. I think this cool. Never used him. Sniffler. If I can't pronounce the creature, I don't use the creature. Symbolic Jelly. Cat People. A Tentamort. That's kind of cool. It's like a vine that grows in dungeons. I can't pronounce it. Never used it. Can't pronounce it. Don't use it. Thwackclaw. A Thork. A Throat Leech. A Tiger Fly. Okay, this is another thing that was in that stupid adventure. A crazy Triafeg. A Trillock. Trolls. Giant Trolls. Two-headed Troll. An Ice Troll. Spirit Troll. Tweens. Umbly, never used them. Urchins, no pictures of them. Vodyanoi. Aquatic Umbra Hulks. I love Umbra Hulks. They're like my fourth favorite monster. Volts. Vortex. Whipweeds. There's Whipweed. Wither Stench. Witherweed. Azil. There's no way I'm using that. And here is, this was like the worst monster, and of course it was in that adventure. Zvart. And they smelled bad, like sulfur, so because Zvart sounds like fart. Ta-da! We were kids. A Yellow Musk Creeper. That's kind of cool if you read the story. And the Yellow Musk Creeper. This is the origin of the flower zombies, if you ask me, from that video game. These things, they would devour you, and then the root systems would inhabit your body and turn you into a zombie. Really freaking cool. And I love this picture. I forgot about this picture. I love this picture. This is, you know, how to distribute treasure, random monsters, some cool Bill Willingham. I am a Bill Willingham freak. I love Bill Willingham. I don't know what it is. I just love his lines. Such good lines. Look at that. I just wish the guy would do more art. I guess I could commission. Maybe I'll commission him to draw something. That is a cool picture. Look at that. Just so cool. So cool. The art. Monster. These are just random monster to put all these monsters with the Fiend, the monster manual and the Fiend folio. It's for random monster generation. I was not big on random monsters. I kind of planned everything. I over-planned a lot of stuff to the point like the players sometimes didn't even go into the rooms that I created or you know, whole areas. And that's the Fiend folio. What do you think, guys? Here's the back cover with the Githyanki and the Githzeri. That brought back a lot of memories. I hope you guys indulge me. I know this is a comic book channel. Every once in a while, I'll do something comic book adjacent, some Dungeons & Dragons stuff. But there you go. Let me know if the video quality is better. This is the first time using the new phone. And I'll see you tomorrow. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow with a new video. All right? Bye-bye.